Okay, today we'll talk about four architects, nothing less. We begin with Yakov Chernikov. Let's read a little bit about him. But before we read, here is a picture of him with low resolution. So, Yakov Georgievich Chernikov, born on the 5th of December 1889, and he died on this day, the 9th of May, 1951. So we are today on May 9th, but in 2023. He died in Moscow. The Soviet Union. Was a constructivist architect and graphic designer. His books on architectural design, published in Leningrad between 1927 and 1933, are amongst the most innovative texts and illustrations of their time. His influence was felt to this day on various people. Chernikov was born to a poor family, one of 11 children. After studying at the Greco of Odessa Art School, Ukraine, he moved in 1914 to Petrograd in St. Petersburg and joined the architecture faculty of the Imperial Academy of Arts in 1916, where he later studied under Léon Benoit. Greatly interested in the futurist movements, including constructivism and suprematism of Malevich, with whom he was acquainted, he set out his ideas in a series of books in the late 20s and early 30s, so 100 years ago. The Art of Graphic Representation, Fundamentals of Contemporary Architecture, The Construction of Architectural and Machine Forms, and 101 Architectural Fantasies. The latter, a very fine example of color printing, was perhaps the last avant-garde art book to be published in Russia during the Stalinist era. Its remarkable designs uncannily predict the architecture of the later 20th century. However, his unusual ideas meant that Chernikov was distrusted by the regime. Although he continued work as a teacher and held a number of one-man shows, few of his designs were built and very few appear to have survived. Amongst the latter is the Tower of the Red Nailer, interesting name, factory in St. Petersburg. And we are going to see an image of it. Chernikov also produced a number of richly designed architectural fantasies of historic architecture, which were never exhibited in his lifetime. A book on the construction of letter forms containing some of his typographical designs was published after his death in 1959. Chernikov produced some 17,000 drawings and projects and was dubbed the Soviet Piranesi. On the 8th of August 2006, it was announced that some hundreds of Chernikov's drawings with an estimated value of $1,300,000 had gone missing from the Russian state archives. Some 274 have been recovered in Russia and abroad. Okay, so Tower of the Red Nailer factory in St. Petersburg, the only building that we are going to see by him, but it doesn't look bad, even, solitary as it is, has something of his drawings, and we are going to see his drawings, but only a part of his drawing, the so-called futurist part, because he also has, you see here a rendering, some kind of a rendering of this project that he built, Yakov Chernikov. Drawings. And I'm not going to show 17,000 of them, but I'm going to show a number of them. These are architectural fantasies, but these architectural fantasies influenced architects like Bernard Tschumi in our time. The Russian or the Soviet Piranesi. Yakov Chernikov. But here's another side, as you can see, historicist. Between this drawing and this one, there is no relationship. They are very different. So you wonder, how come the same man? I guess he had dualities, like, you see this drawing, and then you see this drawing. So what do they have in common? Almost nothing, except that the same man made them. In a way, you could say something sad about, an architect who just draws and draws and draws, but doesn't build. But what can you do? Some people are lucky, some people are not lucky. And, some very talented architects express themselves through drawings. Even some very accomplished architects like Le Corbusier and Frank Lloyd Wright, to name just two of them, at periods in their lives when they drew and drew and drew and then built less. Although Wright built more than 500 buildings. This drawing is indeed very Piranesian, and it's actually very nice. Yakov Chernikov. Well, if William Faulkner's advice to us to always dream is correct, then we could say that Yakov Chernikov's activity had some meaning too. Okay, now we go to the second architect we'll talk about, and all these architects are connected with the day of the 9th of May. I think today is the day of Europe, if I'm not mistaken. Well, I will talk about 3 European architects and only one from North America. The second one I'll talk about is Rafael Moneo, and himself a very accomplished architect, but beyond drawing. So Rafael Moneo, he is a Spanish architect, you see, born May 9th. He won the Pritzker Prize for Architecture in 1996 and the Riba Royal Gold Medal in 2003 and the Biennales, Venice Biennales Golden Lion in 2021. So he did it, so to speak. This was the man. He was also the dean at Harvard University, the Graduate School of Design. Actually, I'm not sure if that's how it is called, but I guess so. Yes, the Graduate School of Design, Harvard Graduate School of Design. Yes. I don't know for how many years he ran that school where the Spaniards had something to say, because before Rafael Moneo, there was Jose Luis Serre, who also ran that school in that very important university. Rafael Moneo, the Golden Lion in Venice in 2021. Let's see some drawings by him. Different from Yakov Chernikov's, but he drew in order to build, as opposed to Chernikov's, who didn't have as opposed to Chernikov, who didn't have commissions. Rafael Moneo. National Museum of Roman Art in Merida, Spain, 1986, a very important work in his oeuvre. The Roman Arch. He assumed history, and to an extent, he avoided the trappings of becoming a historicist. Maybe not as dramatically successful in this respect like Louis Kahn, but still, Rafael Moneo was and is an architect to be appreciated and respected. A museum in Massachusetts, 1993, that is in the United States. He uses, as opposed to many architects from contemporary with him, he used a lot the brick and opaque walls, masonry walls. This is something that, for example, the deconstructivists didn't use. But Rafael Moneo was not, and is not a deconstructivist. But he had himself, the liking for, some deviant architectural gestures here and there. Rather timid, if we had to compare them with the extravagances of the deconstructivists. I attended actually one of his lectures at Columbia University in New York, and I even wrote a reaction to it called "Apropos of Rafael Moneo's lecture." So we are in Massachusetts, but this is not in Massachusetts, something wrong. Sorry, Museum of Modern Art, Center for Architecture and Design in Stockholm, in Sweden, 1997. Here it is, white, very white, and rather horizontal, but I think it's a building with integrity and with an appreciable seriousness. Maybe too much seriousness, considering that it's a museum of art. But who said that art is not a serious enterprise? It is. But it is also, iconoclastic if it is art. Stockholm. And some snow. So snow does exist in some parts of the world still. This reminds me a little of the architecture of an early modernist, Oud, the Dutch architect. What is this? A Congress Hall in the Basque Country in Spain, San Sebastian. Rafael Moneo. They are prisms, but they are a little bit sloping, you know, they are a little bit slanted. Here is an interesting staircase because you see there are two stairs. They go to the same floor, but you know, they one is longer, the other one is shorter, one is wider, the shorter one is wider, and the longer one is narrower. And they are very close to each other. Very interesting situation. And also it's interesting the treatment of the, you know, the glass treatment of the facade. Now, this is indeed a unique situation where you have two stairs in very close proximity going to the same place. Why not? Also, rather unusual, but I would say it's not a bad thing. Is that, you know, from this floor to the next one, you climb the stair here, and then you have to go to the stair which is on the other side. So, you know, it's not a continuous stair that goes from the ground floor all the way to the top floor. So there is a zigzagging. That's what I'm trying to say. And this zigzagging might be protested by the strict functionalist, but I think architecture could welcome sometimes some capriciousness as well, and even some irrationality. Somehow these two stairs in close proximity look okay, you know, even if rationally speaking, it makes no sense. You know, why have two stairs separated by, I don't know, a hole of, you know, about 1 meter wide or less, even maybe 70 centimeters wide. Houston, Texas. Again, fine arts, museums, museums, museums. Capitalism does need museums to, you know, soften a little bit its, you know, harsh profile. It is through art that capitalism tries to dilute a little bit its guilt. I think interesting the top of the museum. You know, it's like you have this Cartesian village of skylights, cubicle as they are. Interesting. This is on top of the building. Yeah. He also built an interesting cathedral, and we are going to see it also in the United States. Library of Sciences in Belgium. Now, the Cathedral of Our Lady of the Angels in Los Angeles, California, 2002. The Cathedral of the Angels at a time when almost nobody believes in angels. Although I remember Daniel Lipskin said that the more angels in the sky, the more space. Interesting paradox. So Los Angeles, the Cathedral of the Angels. That's not how it is called, is it? Cathedral of Our Lady of the Angels. That's different. But maybe it would be interesting one day, someone, because I don't think such a cathedral was ever built. A cathedral just for angels, not for Our Lady of the Angels. Actually, I don't know who the Lady of the Angels is. Or maybe it refers to Maria, or Mary. And just because it's in Los Angeles, it's called the Mary of the Angels, because it is in Angeles. And in Los Angeles, there is an important Spanish population and or Spanish-speaking population, and an architect coming from Spain, I imagine, was well received there. Although not far away from it is a high school built by Wolf Prix and Kop Himmelblau. I hope we can see it in this picture. But I think this cathedral by Rafael Moneo is worth studying. It has some qualities. Yes, here is the school by Wolf Prix and Kop Himmelblau. I think it's a high school. Los Angeles, Rafael Moneo. The Cathedral of Our Lady of the Angels. Now, Valladolid Science Museum in Spain, 2003. Not bad, this tower. Well, welcome to the fascination with prehistory. The more advanced we are technologically, the more we like these strange prehistorical animals. So this is in Spain, it's not any longer in the United States. Museo del Prado expansion, Madrid, 2007. I have, by mistake, I also showed a picture of this earlier and it was not supposed to be there. I apologize. I have to say that at the Prado Museum in Madrid, I saw the most impressive paintings I ever saw, and those are Pinturas Negras of Goya. I love painting, but no painting ever impressed me as much as Goya then. And they are at the Prado in Madrid. So if you arrive in Madrid, please do not ignore to pay a visit to this museum and take a look at the black paintings of the great Spanish painter Goya. I like the entrance into the museum or the extension of the museum. It has an austerity that is remarkable for a major entrance into a major museum. New library of the University of Deusto, Bilbao, 2009. Rafael Moneo again. Where are the books? Rather unexpected, but not for our time. But in general, when you murmur library, you expect to see books. I see no books. There are, of course, digital apparatuses, technology, but no books. Columbia University, Northwest Corner Building, 2010. I like the way he problematizes Cartesianism through these dispersed diagonals. I hope they do have a structural raison d'etre as well. But what I'm trying to say is he welcomes an aleatory movement on the facade, although the facade is otherwise strictly composed. Rafael Moneo in New York City, Columbia University. Princeton Neuroscience Institute, 2013. As you can see, he was and is very well connected with the academia. He receives commissions from important universities, being that he was the dean at Harvard. I mean, the School of Architecture helped, I'm sure. Not all his buildings are really very impressive, I think. Some of them are rather dull, sorry for saying it, but this is what I feel. Like this building, for example, is it doesn't excite me or entices me. Museum University of Navarra in Spain, 2015. I almost feel the need for the Dadaists who protested museums. Too many museums, monumental as they are. And they are intimidating, as large structures, opulent and so-called civilized. But okay, so we'll talk about two more architects, but let's stop for a short while.